Monday, the 3rd of June, a lovely, bright, sunny start to the week, and the outlook is looking great. As I've said over the past weeks, I am going to unravel week by week the process of buying properties at auction. Now, we've already discussed the listing of the property on the website and what to look for. And we just want to talk briefly about the legal pack. Now, this is a document which you can download completely free of charge, which will have all the pre-prescribed legal documents that you'll need to make an informed decision to purchase this house. These documents are normally produced when we buy a house by our solicitor on behalf of us during the conveyancing process. But because at auction we have to make a very quick decision, and indeed we have to place a 10% deposit and exchange contracts on either the timer zeroing out or the hammer falling, we need to have all this information pre-prescribed for us. So we'll go through the legal pack, and this will contain quite a few documents, quite daunting at first. It will contain, first of all, the auctioneer's standard conditions. That's in relation to property law, compliance and general UK law, the way that auctioneer chooses to operate their business as far as fees, charges, scales, etc. That will all be in the standard conditions. We then have another document that will be unique to this particular lot, to this particular property, and that is the special conditions. Now, I would urge you all to take a very careful look at the special conditions, because sometimes they can contain sinister conditions in there. Now, what I mean by that is something that would either affect the value of the property or a charge that we weren't expecting that we are going to have to pay. So when we look at the special conditions, it's quite usual that they'll perhaps cut the 28-day standard completion date to 21 days. It's quite standard they may cut the default, which is normally 10 days to 5 days. These are all things that are not a major effect, but we need to be aware of. And normally, more often than not in today's auctions, you'll see that although you've had all this wonderful legal information free of charge, you have to pay for it if you're the winning bidder. So you have to pay sometimes not only the buyer's fee, but also the cost of the legals that have been prepared for this lot. So just check out the charges. It's normally £1,200 plus VAT. It's normally £300 plus VAT for the searches. So it's nothing untoward, but every little penny counts. So it's everything which you've got to put onto your deal analyzer spreadsheet and make sure that you have accounted for these charges. Sometimes they're a little bit cheeky and they'll throw things in there like you have to pay the seller's auction entry fee also. And sometimes, very rarely, there have been conditions that we've spotted in there whereby, for example, it may say something like the buyer is responsible for any leasehold arrears. Now, immediately, if I saw that clause in there, it's telling me there obviously are arrears, otherwise they wouldn't have put it in there. So A, how much are the arrears? And B, are we still safe? So what we would have to do is make the inquiry to find out what these could be. Now, it could be that they're £200. It could be that they're £200,000, in which case that's going to make a major difference to our decision to purchase this property. So study all of the special conditions in great detail. You will also have the title for the property and the title plan. The title is very important. The title deed will tell you whether the property is freehold or leasehold, who owns the property, whether there are any charges, and also whether there are any conditions attached to the property. For example, previous owners may have put what they call restrictive covenants on this property. And although some people will argue with me, they're nigh on impossible to get removed. Now, normally, they're quite reasonable. It says things like you can't trade from the house, so you can't sell alcohol, you can't use your house as a supermarket, or you can't involve any heavy mechanical machinery or any kind of heavy industry, which is fair enough. And if you were buying the house in that area and all the houses have that covenant, it's actually quite a good thing because it means you're always going to have a peaceful time. However, sometimes I've seen restrictive covenants, and they're very difficult to understand because they're written in old school English. Restrictive covenants that have said you can never rent the house out. Now, this might not be a problem for you, but what about a potential further purchase. Somebody wants to buy it somewhere down the line and rent it out, or if your circumstances change and you want to rent it out, you're not allowed to. So what does it ultimately mean? Well, in simple layman's terms, that means that that restrictive covenant is very restrictive, and also it's going to adversely affect the value of the property. Anything which we see in this legal pack, I would advise you contact a solicitor to get them to cast their eye over it, because you may miss something, or indeed, being new to this, you may misinterpret something. So you've got to have a very good look at these documents. Following on from that, we normally get the local authority searches, which will tell you about what's going on in the local area and what planning permission or building regulations have been applied to this particular property in the past. So you can check out to see whether the windows that were fitted, do they comply with building regulations, or the new boiler that was fitted, has it been installed by a gas safe engineer, etc. You can see all of that on the local authority searches. We then look at the other searches. There'll be like environmental searches, coal reports, things like that. Now, a lot of the information on there is not really that important, but nevertheless, understand it yourself. And if you feel you can't understand it, as I've always said, engage a solicitor or conveyancer who will look over this for you. One of the major things that I look at now is the flood risk, because this is becoming an increasing problem. And people say to me, well, Ben, it's in a flood risk area, but it's never flooded. Okay, that's fine. What if it floods tomorrow when we own it? How are we going to get the property insured next year? How are we going to sell the property? Because it's now going to appear on all the searches. So that's really important, because flood risk is something that people are becoming more aware of and people are shying away from. The ultimate acid test, and I believe that insurance companies have more data than anyone, is to phone an insurance company or broker, give them the property details and ask for a quote for buildings insurance. And if they turn around and they say, yes, the quote's fine, we'll insure it for flood risk, there's no additional premium, etc., you know that property is safe because they have the data. If they turn around to you and say, well, we will insure the property, but we're not willing to insure against flood risk, or we will insure against flood risk, but there's a massive additional premium, you know that this could potentially be a problem in the future. There'll be lots of other information in the legal pack, such as the legal information, the property information form. So that will tell you the seller's filled out a form to say what they're leaving at the property. They're also giving you information on what the boundaries of the property, whose responsibility the hedges or fences are, who supplies the utilities to the property, have they ever had any argument with the neighbours. There's all sorts of really good information in there which you can glean from that, which will help you in your decision to purchase. So we've got to go through the legal pack. We've got to be happy with everything in there. And we've also got to make sure that we engage a solicitor to check it over for us. You're going to need a solicitor to finalise the transaction anyway. So you may as well, on a lot that you're deadly serious about bidding on, you may as well engage a solicitor to look at this, because although there'll be a fee involved, it could save you a very painful lesson. So I hope that's been useful. My advice now, over the next few days, is to go online, have a look at some properties, like I've told you in the previous daily updates, and download the legal pack. Have a look. Even if it's a property that you're perhaps not in a position to buy right now, at least you're educating yourself. We will be going through the auction process on my training. Over the coming weeks, you're going to see lots of training courses are going to appear on here. They're all at different levels. Some will be paid and some will be entirely free. And on that note, don't forget about tomorrow night's free tutorial webinar, Property for Newbies. So if you're new to property, if you want to expand your property business, or you're just thinking about it, it doesn't matter. I want you on the webinar. I want you there and I want to chat to you. So there'll be a tutorial from me to kick things off. Then we'll have a full question and answer session afterwards. So if you've got any burning questions that you want to ask, jump on the webinar. It starts at 7 p.m. I'll put the link in the comments below. It's in the school diary as well, so you can grab it from that. Tomorrow, Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. It's free of charge. Please bring anyone else that you want to. Spread the link around. The more the merrier. We want to share this wonderful resource, this wonderful platform and community with everyone. Now, let's get on with the rest of this week. Have a great one, guys.